This is the third of 3 videos about pronouns, and in this video we're going to look at different types of pronouns. As we saw earlier, we can distinguish 8 subcategories of pronouns. Now, the one that comes to mind most easily when you think of pronouns are what are called the personal pronouns. And as you can see here, we have different forms of personal pronouns depending on which number, which person, and which case the pronoun occurs in. So if we look at the nominative forms of pronouns, we have I, you, he, she, it, we, you, and they. And the accusative forms are me, you, him, her, it, us, you, and them. And as you can see, for the second person, you get the same form regardless of the number or the case. The second type of pronoun are the possessive pronouns, and they're words like mine and yours, as in that book is mine, yours has a different cover. Now, really, when you think about what mine means, you could say mine means my one, yours means your one. And what you see then is the relation between the possessive pronoun and the possessive determiner. Yeah? Different words, but very closely related in meaning. Now, you've got to be very careful with them. Here you can see that they really are different words because they behave differently. Yeah? So you can say this is my book, this is your book, and you can replace my and your there with the. Yeah? This is the book. But what you can't say is this is mine book, this is yours book. And the other way around, you get the same pattern. Yes, so you can say this is mine, this is yours. You can replace that with a pronoun like this is him. But you can't say this is my, this is your. Just like you can't say this is the. Yeah, so you really have different words. Just try one. Well, if you take this is her, what's her then? Is it a possessive determiner, a possessive pronoun, or a personal pronoun? Well, it doesn't express possession here, yeah? And it's just the accusative form of third person singular feminine. In this is his, yeah, what you've got is a possessive pronoun, yeah, because it's you could say this is him, yeah, you can replace it with a pronoun, so you've got a pronoun and it expresses possession. And this is her friend. Her is, yeah, in fact, a possessive determiner. Yeah, her here is followed by a noun, and you can replace the her with the. This is the friend. Okay, a third type of pronoun we get to refer back to something. So if you look at this picture, yeah, you could say, you know, the man is holding this ball, he can see him. Now you can't say he can see him to mean that the man can see his own reflection. And what we need here is what's called a reflexive pronoun. Yeah? He can see himself. You know, the different forms of reflexive pronouns. Yeah, I can see myself, you can see yourself, they can see themselves, etc. Yeah. Okay, and so what you need with these is always what we call an antecedent in the sentence, so that word he here, which picks out an individual that the reflexive pronoun then refers back to. Now, a fourth type of pronoun, which is a little bit related to the reflexives, is what are called reciprocal pronouns. Now, there are only 2 of these, each other and one another, as in John and Mary love each other, John and Mary love one another. Yeah, and they really express that John loves Mary and Mary loves John. We then also have demonstrative pronouns. Something like John doesn't agree with that. Those look really beautiful. And you've got this, these, that, and those, just the 4. And again, just as with the possessive pronouns, the demonstrative pronouns are very close to the demonstrative determiners. Yeah, so you can say, I like that chocolate, I like the chocolate. So that is a demonstrative determiner. But if you just have I like that, then it's a demonstrative pronoun. And you could say I like him. Yeah, so you can replace it with another pronoun. Or you can say I like John. Yeah, you can replace the pronoun with a proper noun. But what you can't say is I like John chocolate. So you can't replace that in the first of these two sentences with a proper noun. Let's have a look. In their holiday doesn't start at the same time as ours. What's there? Well, do the tests and you find you can say the holiday doesn't start at the same time as ours. So you can replace it with the determiner the. So that means it's a determiner. And there, of course, expresses possession. So it is, in fact, a possessive determiner. And in that sentence, we also have ours. And what is ours then? Well, if we try and replace ours with the determiner, it doesn't work. Yeah, the holiday doesn't start at the same time as the. Yeah, that doesn't work. So it doesn't start at the same time as John. Now that doesn't sound very good, but in terms of the structure, it's perfectly fine. Yeah. And what we have in fact here is a possessive pronoun. And they have only themselves to blame. What's themselves? Well, you've got they, yeah, and then themselves refers to back to they, yeah. So in a way, it's reflecting itself. So it's a reflexive pronoun. That news really upset me. That. Now here, that is followed by a noun, news. You can say the news really upset me. That is a demonstrative, so it must be a demonstrative determiner. Okay, a further category of pronouns are what are called relative pronouns. And relative pronouns are used to introduce a little clause in a sentence, and a clause is really a small sentence within a sentence. Yes, so for example, you could have two sentences. Mary talked to the woman. Mary had met the woman on the train. You can make one sentence from those two sentences and say, Mary talked to the woman whom she had met on the train. And whom is a bit more formal than who. Now, she had met ... on the train. You've got there. That's the relative clause, and it's introduced to that by that relative pronoun whom. Yeah, and relative pronouns are which, who, that, whom. Now, you can use relative clauses in two different ways. So if you look at these two sentences, when you pronounce them, they sound quite differently. Yeah, so I can say, the girl who is very funny studies at UH. Yeah. And that's what we call a restrictive relative clause. You need to have that little clause, who is very funny, to work out who the speaker is talking about. Yeah, the girl who is very funny, as opposed to some other girl. But you can also have the girl who is very funny studies at UH. Yeah? Now you get very different intonation pattern, and here what you have is a kind of aside. Yeah, so you're talking about the girl, and we all know who that is, and you're saying as a little aside that she's very funny, and then the main thought is that the girl studies at UH. That's what we call a non-restrictive relative clause. It gives a little bit of extra information, but you don't need that information to work out who is being talked about. Okay, a further class of pronouns are interrogative pronouns, and interrogative sentences are sentences that ask questions. And interrogative pronouns are used in what we call WH questions, and they're questions that start with a WH word. So who, what, which. So you can, if you have a statement like Peter talked to Bill about grammar, the kind of questions you can make from that statement are who talked to Bill, Who did Peter talk to? What did Peter talk to Bill about? Yeah, and these WH words are interrogative pronouns. Now, they're not just used in direct questions, as the questions we had just now, but also used in indirect questions. So they're like questions embedded in statements. So something like Sue wondered who talked to Bill. Sue wondered who Peter talked to. Sue wondered what Peter talked to Bill about. Okay, so these interrogatives are who, why, what, whatever, etc. Now, the last category of pronouns are the indefinite pronouns, sometimes called impersonal pronouns. They're words like somebody, no one, anything, something. Yeah, so it's sentences like somebody must have heard something, no one heard anything. Okay, so they pick out individuals, but not specific individuals. Yeah, or in the case of no one, they don't pick out any individual. Okay, well, those are all the different categories of pronoun. Let's have a look at whether you can pick them out now. So how many pronouns are there in the following passage, and what are they? John went to visit his friend Mary, who lived in a student flat near him, but there was nobody at home. John could kick himself when he remembered that they were supposed to meet each other in the pub. Okay, well, if we look at them, these are the pronouns. So you see that first his, John went to visit his friend Mary, you can replace with the friend Mary, yeah? So it's not a pronoun here, that's a determiner. But then we get who lived in a student flat near him, yeah? And that's, it introduces a little clause here. Mary lived in a student flat near him, so that's a relative pronoun. And then we've got that him, that's of course accusative case of third person singular masculine, so it's a personal pronoun. There was nobody at home, nobody, one of these indefinite pronouns. John could kick himself, so John could kick John, so it reflects back to John, so it's a reflexive pronoun. When he remembered that they, etc. So he, it's the same as him, but then nominative case, so it's a personal pronoun. He remembered that they, again, personal pronoun, so he is third person singular, they is third person plural, and they're both nominative case. They were supposed to meet each other in the pub. Each other, so John was supposed to meet Mary, and Mary was supposed to meet John, so that's a reciprocal pronoun. And that's all the pronouns.